Yeah, you need to start on time, sharp, or we can early? You're online. Okay, great. So we will finish early like that. Great. Okay, so hello everybody. My name is Paul Lu. I am the Executive Secretary of the 4 Initiative, an international initiative promoting soil carbon sequestration to fight climate change and food insecurity. Today, we would like to address a very important question. How can we help farmers to contribute to climate change mitigation through soil health regeneration? Since COP28, agriculture, thanks to soil, has become an important part of the solution to climate change. And the declaration adopted by 134 countries Saturday here at COP28 in Dubai, bringing food system, sustainable agriculture at very important rank as a solution for climate change mitigation, is a good example of what we can do, and we are very happy of that. This declaration also mentioned that soil health needs to be enhanced. So regenerating soil health through appropriate practices, that means for us agroecology, is key to support farmers in this way. The purpose of this event is to get testimonies of scientists, representatives of farmers, startup manager and agri-food company representative to illustrate how farmers can be supported in that work. The panel will review respective contribution of these various actors to climate change mitigation and how farmers, who are the ones doing the job in the field, can be supported to implement the difficult work of storing carbon in the soil and bringing soil in a better condition, better health. So let me introduce our various speakers. I have the pleasure to have a panel composed at 100% of ladies, and I'm very happy that each of her just accept to be part of this panel. By the way, I'm French, so forgive my English. And we'll have some other non-native English speakers, so I prefer to announce that in advance, except Gabrielle, of course. So, our first speaker will be Beata Madari. She is Brazilian. She is working at Embrapa, and she is, well, she can explain what she is doing exactly because she has so many titles and degrees that it's very impressive. But she will tell us about the farmers and her research and the farmers in Brazil. Our second speaker will be Mrs. Gabrielle Bastien. She is the founder, and now the honorary member of the Regeneration Canada. This is not easy for French people to pronounce that. I prefer the French name. And she is also vice chair of the 4 Initiative at the moment. Our third panelist will be Adrienne de Malaret. She is co-founder of Genesis Soil Health Company, and she's, we say you are a journalist at the base, at the origin, and she knows now everything about soil health. And our last speaker, last but not least, will be Sandrine Sommer. She's the Chief Sustainability Officer, Senior Officer? Okay. At Moet & a famous company known for its wine and spirits, but not only produced in France, as she will explain to us. So Gabrielle is Canadian, I forget to explain that. So Adrienne is French, Sandrine is French, but she will talk to us about also experience of Moet & in Latin America and North America. So we will have a panelist for all the Americas, and that's exactly what we wish for this pavilion, which is very important. So let's start by you, Beata. And sorry, I have so many papers that I get lost. Beata, you work at Embrapa, as I said. Can you tell us what your research in Brazil is about and how this research is helping farmers, ranchers, and livestock breeders to practice farming methods that help to combat climate change? You have the floor, and you have a presentation, I think.
I think I cannot stand.
You can stand, but you...
No, because of the...
Yeah, of course.
Okay, sorry.
I will escape.
Okay. So thank you for the invitation, Paul, and thank you for your presence. Well, first and foremost, I'm a research scientist at Embrapa. I work with soil organic matter, soil health, production systems, and the carbon balance of production systems. And well, what is there is the Executive Secretary of Committee for Research Projects Management in Climate Change. So at Embrapa, we manage projects in committees, and for climate change, we have a collection of projects, and some of them also works with the interaction with farmers, producers in general. Yes. So I will talk about helping farmers to regenerate or conserve soil health through the implementation of adequate soil and agricultural system management. Okay. I don't know how many of you know, Embrapa has now a long-standing public policy to reduce agricultural greenhouse gas emissions. We call it the ABC plan. Now we are talking about sustainable production systems of the ABC plan, ABC program. And ABC stands for low carbon emission agriculture. So this public policy, it promotes, okay. This public. No, this is a. No, that's fine. It doesn't work. Okay. So this public policy promotes some technologies and sustainable production systems that are important to meet our, for example, our NDC commitments. These are some of those are the recovery of degraded pastures, zero tillage system, the integration of crop livestock forestry, and agroforestry. Also, planted forests make part of this policy. The use of biofertilizers, irrigated systems, the management of animal waste, and intensive termination. It's related to animal husbandry. Well, almost all of these is actually directly related to soil health and soil carbon sequestration. So with the implementation, we will have some results, what we expect. We also have results on soil carbon sequestration and improving soil health. But now, well, these are the general guidelines for farmers and companies how to deal with climate change, how to reduce its impact in the agricultural sector. But these are just guidelines, and actually, for this to be reality and for this to work, we have to work very intensively with farmers, producers, and companies. I say like this because in Brazil we are dealing with a very large variety of types of producers in the agricultural sector. So we have a lot of smaller producers, the medium-sized farms, and we also have the large agro-industries. And it's a completely different way how we can approach and how we can introduce sustainable production systems in case they are not involved with them already. So I will now tell just some, well, I could talk a lot about it, but I will tell only two examples, two concrete examples of how we do that in case of a large agro-industry company and in case of small producers. Okay, so large agro-industry firms, as every industry, they have they have environmental and social governance, which is a report on how they deal with climate change, the effect of their production on climate change, and how they reduce it. And well, this includes, as it says in its name, the environmental part, which deals with climate change strategy, biodiversity, their energy use efficiency, carbon intensity, etc. Then there is the social part and the governance part. And usually, well, this company that I'm bringing as an example, actually, it's very active and it's very good in its ESG. The ESG reports are really impressive. On the environmental part, they are practicing a lot of available technologies that actually reduce the overall greenhouse gas emissions of the company. Like, for example, integrated pest management that reduces herbicide use, which is, this company is working with the soybean and cotton production in succession. So in case of the cotton production, it's a great achievement. Yeah. However, in spite of all this spectacular ESG, when we go to the ground, when we go to the actual natural resource of production, the soil, it's, well, it lags behind. Okay. Actually, when we when we started to, they entered in contact with us that they would like to measure how sustainable the production system is, how much carbon they store, and how much greenhouse gases from the production unit they emit, because of all the other technologies that they use to reduce emissions, and because of the high productivity that they produce. They were quite sure that the sustainability on the soil level is also at least in an acceptable manner. So what we did, well, actually we measured it working together with them. After several meetings, at 4 farms, we measured greenhouse gas emissions, measured carbon stocks. Actually, we made a kind of baseline for further implementation of sustainable soil management. And we did it together with them. So actually, at Embrapa, we are very limited in time and personnel to travel and do these measurements. So actually, they did it. We explained how to do. And actually, it's all their personnel who did all these measurements. I think it was also quite. It's also quite. It is a very good. It is a very good example of what a company can do when they actually very devoted to sustainable management. So just some of the main results that we could explain to them, and what was not what they expected. that yes, they practice no tillage, but without crop rotation, without using of green manure, cover crops. So soil carbon, compared to the natural vegetation, soil carbon concentrations are diminished, soil carbon stocks are also diminished, and the emissions, the overall CO2 equivalent emissions are higher than the original ecosystem. So what to do? And the next step was that we sat down together, we sat with them together, and we made actually a research plan to make it feasible for them to use some of the sustainable production systems or technologies that actually our public policy is offering. Okay. And that's the important part of being in contact with farmers and producers, because the public policy is just that. It's an orientation, but we have to many times we have to adapt it to the actual climate and ecosystem conditions where the production takes place. So first of all, we explained about soil health, which is the ability of the soil to sustain productivity, diversity, and environmental services of terrestrial ecosystems, at least in only some words. And within this, the productivity, they can still sustain. But there are serious problems of diversity, like soil microorganisms, soil fauna, etc., diversity. Also, the capacity of the soil to have environmental services is also reduced. Okay, so what we did, actually, with our experience and with their experience at the ecosystem where they produce, we suggested some changes in the production system, like and we set up experiments to test, and actually now we are evaluating with these options, and we will see which is the best that still sustains productivity, but on the other hand, it starts to regenerate soil health, soil quality. So these are just some of the indicators that we can use and we are measuring, like carbon, of course, carbon concentration and carbon stocks, and the carbon stock change, more importantly. Carbon quality, so what kind of, in what form of organic matter I have the carbon in the soil. It is also important. Then a yield, of course, the CO2 equivalent emissions, carbon and nutrient balance of the system, chemical and biological properties of the soil, including enzymes activity. And here we use a system, okay. Here we use a system which we call the BioS, and actually it was created by Embrapa. It's a soil evaluation system that actually evaluates soil quality, and we can have conclusions about soil health. But not only evaluates, it also is it's also a warning thing. We can tell them that, okay, now the nutrient providing capacity of the soil is still very good, but if you see, for example, the microbiological, the soil physical properties, soil physical indicators, then we can say that you are in orange or in red, and you have to change how you manage the soil or the agricultural system in order to in order to be able to maintain productivity in a longer period of time. And actually, this is a first step for regenerative agriculture in the standpoint of a large company. This is just the first step, but then implementing regenerative agriculture, it's a process. So after that, we can think of including other technologies and other components to their system. And just rapidly, the other one with smallholders, with small farmers. They actually need help in implementation. It's just not just they actually have financial difficulties to implement sustainable production systems. And for that, what we have, this is my last slide, okay? What we have is just one example. There are other associations and networks, but this one is a public-private partnership where the private industries, they provide funding, and Embrapa provides the technology, the know-how. And this is about the implementation of crop, livestock, and forestry integration, which is an important part of the public policy and also of our NDCs. Actually, we have some technological reference units implemented, and through projects within this collaboration, this is public-private partnership, we are expanding the number of small farmers who implement integrated crop livestock or crop livestock forestry systems. And this way, for example, they recuperate degraded pastures. Many of the small producers, they have pastures, they have some animals, and usually the pasture is degraded. So slowly, but it's a very well functioning network. Actually, it's called an association. So we are making important steps forward, real sustainability and improving soil health as well.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Beata. Thank you. You go a little bit over the 8 minutes, but that's okay. That was interesting to have example about the large farmers in one hand and also the small one, because this is one of the characteristics of the agriculture in Brazil. Thank you. So let's come to you, Gabriel. Gabriel, as I said before, you're Canadian and you founded the NGO. Could you tell us about the aim of this organization, Regeneration Canada, and how it works with farmers? How you see the agriculture and livestock farming in North America evolving in the future to help combat climate change and the erosion of biodiversity?
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you so much, Paul, and hi everybody. It's really a pleasure to be here with you all on World Soil Day to talk about this. So as Paul mentioned, I founded Regeneration Canada. So we were the first national nonprofit in Canada to promote soil regeneration as a solution to climate change and for food security. So this whole concept of regenerative agriculture, or we could say agroecology. So I'll speak, of course, to my specific experience spearheading this organization for 6 years and how we were helping farmers, contribute to climate change mitigation through soil health practices. And of course, this relates to what the role of NGOs can be in doing so. So the way we did it at Regeneration Canada was through 3 different strategies. So the first strategy was really knowledge transfer. So, probably a more obvious one, yet very extremely important. So here I'm really talking about, transferring the skills and the knowledge necessary for farmers to be equipped when they're working the land, so for them to really know how to implement these practices. So the way we did this, apologies, I was also a little bit troubled because Paul, I think that the question you asked me was a new one. So I'll try to remember it towards the end, but I might need you to remind me. Okay, I'll just keep going with my with where I was going. So in terms of transferring knowledge, this is of course extremely crucial, especially in the context that agroecology and regenerative agriculture is a rapidly evolving field, and it's really not like one simple recipe that you can just apply to everything. It's very context dependent. It really varies depending on your type of soil, the type of crops you're growing, the climate, etc. And here I'll mention also that peer-to-peer learning is extremely important here because farmers love to learn from other farmers. So the role of an NGO here can be to pinpoint who are the leaders in the field who are implementing these best practices, and organize educational initiatives such as courses, workshops, events, or webinars, for example. But in the context that peer-to-peer learning is also very important, we could think of less traditional ways to transfer knowledge and really also, creating spaces for farmers to meet and learn from each other from their own trials and errors, which is really important. So this was the first strategy. The second one we would employ was, I could call it, stakeholder engagement. So here I'm really talking about, gathering the entire diversity of stakeholders who contribute to our food systems. Because this is something we acknowledged very early on at Regeneration Canada, which is the fact that, if we are to transform the way our foods are produced, what we really need is systemic change. So, a little bit in the same way as the 4 per 1,000 acts, we really acknowledge the importance of engaging with this diversity of stakeholders. Of course, farmers are at the center of the system. They're really the ones working the land, but farmers respond to consumer demand. They also are influenced by the policies that are in place and also to the programs that certain institutions can put in place. Farmers also get advice from agronomists, and agronomists' advice is dependent on the science in place. Businesses play an important role as well through their supply chain and the demand they create, and NGOs as well. So for us, we really believe that if farmers will be able to, implement changes in their practices at a large scale, all of these stakeholders also need to shift and to collaborate together. So the way we did this at Regeneration Canada was to, gather this diversity of stakeholders to foster cross-pollination and different, beneficial collaborations with farmers, to make sure that all of these stakeholders also have, the tools that they need to be able to contribute. And the third strategy we would employ was really in terms of raising awareness. So here I'm talking about specifically raising awareness to the general public, but this really supports farmers in their work because farmers need to have a client base that will be aware of what regenerative practices are, why are they important, and where can they actually purchase these products. So these were the three strategies. I could also add here, advocacy, which is more specifically about, advocating for policy changes, with which at Regeneration Canada we would do mostly through a coalition we are a part of, which is Farmers for Climate Solutions. It's a coalition of different nonprofits in Canada that advocate for, agriculture to be a part of the climate solution. So if I am to speak a little bit more concretely about, different activities we would do that relate to these strategies, so one of our first initiatives and one of the very impactful ones was to organize a large living soil symposium. So we had 4 editions of this international multi-stakeholder event, which gathered, a lot of farmers from different practices from different areas of Canada and the world. So really doing this knowledge transfer that I talked about, but also really gathering also all of the diversity of stakeholders as well to, again, foster beneficial collaborations and help advance the movement as a whole. We would also organize, more technical and in-depth activities for farmers. For example, farm, like on-farm workshops, that would last, several days. So those are events that go really more in depth about the techniques and that can foster also that peer-to-peer learning among farmers. Another really interesting way Regeneration Canada has been helping farmers is by working directly with certain corporations to help them transition their supply chain. For example, there's a current really interesting project with General Mills. So the way Regeneration Canada acts, the role of the nonprofit here is really to work directly with the corporation to consult on their strategy to help them transition the farmers in their supply chain, also to work with farmers to educate them and transfer this knowledge, potentially also to connect with different farmers who are already implementing these practices. And there's also a really important, science aspect. So scientists are working also to measure results and evaluate the success of this initiative. Another initiative that Regeneration Canada would do would be, like in terms of raising awareness, was through our farm map. So Regeneration Canada had the first map of regenerative farms in Canada that was, an interactive map really doing some storytelling about the farmers who are working the land, in terms of what their practices are and who are these people who are, behind the movement, to really make it more tangible to the consumers to know, what is this concept of regenerative agriculture concretely, who are the people behind the movement, and how can I actually purchase their products? So really connecting farmers and consumers. And in terms of raising awareness, we would also have, public relations and large communication campaigns to really, help make this concept more tangible and help shift the movement, shift the sector of agriculture in Canada as a whole. So yeah, that's a little bit about our experience and how we've contributed to helping farmers. And looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabrielle. I think it was interesting to see the difference between the approach by science, just go on the technical part, discuss with the farmers, try to find solution together, and also what the NGOs at the civil society level try to promote, bringing knowledge between farmers and also advocacy for the farmers and the civil society on those questions. Thank you very much for this experience. Adrienne. Adrienne, together with Quentin Sagnier, you have created a startup called Genesis, which aim to measure soil health. Well, you will tell more about this. So that companies and their production chain can know where they stand in soil health and support them in making the right changes. Can you tell us more about how Genesis measures soil health and what benefits this represent for the companies that call on your service? What are your future prospects?
Thank you, Paul, and thanks everyone to be there. I'm really glad to be there too. So yes, I will introduce you to Genesis, but we are a 5-year-old company. So, and today we are working in 15 countries. But what are we doing? Genesis is a provider of proof of impact related to land use. So, does it work? Yeah. So we get proof of your environmental impact through soil health measures. So we give to companies hectares regenerated, we give information for their sourcing decisions, and we help banks or funds to assess their impact investment portfolio. So we are really working, as you said before, with big companies who need to go everywhere in the world and who need to manage their impact. Sometimes it's voluntary. They need to manage this impact voluntary. Sometimes it's mandatory. It's an obligation, the regulation wants that they give some proof of their impact. But in the two cases, when we work with you, it's voluntary. But in the two cases, they need strong data about how they impact the land. So, and that's really, really new This is really new for companies. During a long time, for years, they were just looking, I think, at the scope 1 and scope 2, so they were looking to their direct activities. Now they need to go downstream to see upstream, sorry. They need to go upstream and to see exactly where is sourcing the raw materials and what impact they can have. So that's the presentation that I do for this company. So you will, that meets your needs, it meets the needs of company. So we have 3 kind of offer for this kind of company. We help them to source at first. Sometimes they need to know what kind of risk they would have for if they source in one country for one commodities. But it's really a risk assessment. The second, it's to report on the impact. So they know they have the traceability of their sourcing, and the need to have their land footprints. They need to monitor and measure their progress. And the third step is to regenerate. It's when they have some regeneration projects at the field level. And many of them have regeneration projects now. It's really changing. So they need, after they try new practices with farmers, and they need to objectivize, that's the French, objectivize? To objectivize. They need to objectivize the results of those new practices they put at the field level. That's, I think, we are talking about the same things. So that's the third offer that we have with them. So we provide this in a platform so they can follow the project everywhere in the world. As I said, we are in 15 countries now. So, and we measure the soil health. So when we measure the soil health, there's many ways to measure soil health, I think. When we look at the soil health, we look at functionality. We try to understand how the soil is functioning, because the soil has a really crucial function, has climate, the store carbon, or biodiversity. 25% of the biodiversity is in the soil. So they have really environmental function that they need to conserve. And that's this approach that we have. So for the climate, we are working on carbon, of course. For the biodiversity, we are working on functional gene. So we are looking in the soil if some function of the soil are present through gene. For the water, with water cycling is also a soil function. We are working on, we are looking at pollution. We are looking at the soil structure. So there's many indicators. I think it will be too easy to say there's only one. Maybe the carbon is the most important. Maybe. We have this discussion this morning. Maybe it's the most important, but I think it's a systemic approach. It's more complex than that. That's my point of view. Because soil health is really hard to define. We need many indicators. But after that, we try to link these indicators to environmental function, and we link these indicators to environmental function, and we provide our clients with a score. This score, it's a raw data that we normalize. I'm sorry because it's quite technical. I don't know if we have some experts inside the room, but we normalize the data. We have a raw data. It's something that we measure with soil indicators, and we normalize it to provide a language that everyone can understand. And it's really important because this measure, a farmer can understand this kind of measure. But when you talk to a company, they don't understand the problem of carbon. They don't understand, I don't know, the problem of DNA. They need to understand what we are talking about. I'm sorry. So they have a biodiversity score, climate score, water quality, and fertility, because soil must produce, of course. And they use it for regulatory frameworks, for reporting voluntary frameworks, as SBT. They need they want to monitor their sustainable goals, or sometimes they have corporate commitments like regenerative agriculture, or for some label like ROC for you. And so they use this data for this kind of commitments. I will pass this. So we begin at the field level, as I said before. So it's a really, it's a ground proof. We look at the homogeneity of a soil, and we are making sampling. We are making sampling in the soil. After, so we normalize what I explained before. And it's really important, is the third point, that it's impossible to work on soil health without scientific partnership. And it's really interesting what you said before, because we don't, I think the scientific institutes can work in their way, we can work in our way, but I think we are really strong when we work together. And that's the best way to go faster on soil health. And so in Europe, we work with Rotamsted, Wageningen in Hague. I think you know them really well. And I hope we will work together for our South America. And it's really important because when we are an MRV tool, it's a technical word to say that we are giving proof for companies who have commitments. So MRV, and when you are MRV, you must have a really robust approach. And this credibility, I think, comes from the partnerships that we can have with science institutes. That's sure. And we are working also on the ISO normalization for soil health. So that's some case study highlights after Sandrine talking about what we can do together in a vineyard. Some projects, we are working here in France with a cooperative. You see, they have more than 27 hectares. We have rated 14,000 of them. And so we monitor for year after year the evolution of the soil health of their crop. And we try to help them to find, we make correlation after between practices and the soil health, and we try to help after farmers to find the best practices inside the field, which practices in a pedoclimatic context, which practices are the best to have the best impact, environmental impact, of course. Here it's a reforestation project, but it's quite the same. We can talk about arable lands, we can talk about forest. It's an exploitation of the resource. It's an exploitation of the soil. So it's the same problem. It's not exactly the same referential, but it's the same problem. And so here it's a reforestation project. We have it in Brazil and also in Romania. And it has been financed by the BEI, yeah. And they need really strong KPI because they want to be sure that the money they have put in this project is for a sustainable project. So that's why we follow this. Another project is on agrivoltaism, green energy. Maybe I think Biosphère, who is in the room, is working also with them. It's with a company whose the name is Amarenco. And Amarenco, they put solar, not panel, how do you say? Solar, it's not panel, it's solar panel? Yeah, it's solar panel. They put solar panel in the field, and they try to reward the farmer by what they cultivate, but also with the green energy they produce. And they want to create regenerative units around this project. So they want to show that we can merge solar panel and regenerative ag. And so we measure the soil in this project exactly the same to give the proof that we are in a regeneration way. I think that's all. So, and to finish, it's another case study. It's a cotton. So cotton, it's a really hard crop because commodities, because it's really destructive. And when you go in this kind of country, you have to talk with farmers who are really, really, really poor, and they don't have a lot of way to change their practices, but the soil is really, really in the bad health. It's totally destroyed. We can say that, I think. It's totally destroyed. And it's really hard because here it's good to have something to know where you are. But after, when you know where you are, it's not the good. I didn't put the good marks because I think it will be so bad. Yeah, it's not bullshit. I don't want to put it here. But when you know that, okay, it's totally destroyed. My soil are totally destroyed. What can I do? I don't have the money for that. And what can I do? And I think that's the role, or a part of the role, of companies like you, that you can take, I think, a crucial role inside this kind of project. So, and I let the floor to Sandrine.
Thank you. So I can go. You make the transition already. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you also for giving some example. I don't appreciate much your question about forestry. No, there's forestry. It's not what I call forestry. It's silviculture. When you plant all the same trees, not really forestry, but that's okay. That's my purpose. That's okay. It's agriculture, more or less. So Sandrine, we'll let you some minutes anyway for you also because you deserve it. So Sandrine, Moët & has a prestigious reputation through the world thanks to its great brand and great products. One of the characteristics of which is that they are based on the French notion of what I call terroir. Sorry, it's impossible to translate, so keep it the French word for once. And one of the essential elements of that make-up terroir is the soil. So, for many years, you have attached great importance to the health of the soil at the maison and domain that you are running in Moët & Can you tell us about your work in this area in Latin America and North America, and also some word about some events that you organize on that?
Sure, thank you. A few words about Moët & Sorry, up. So Moët & as you mentioned, Paul, is a wine and spirit activity from LVMH. So we are producing champagne, still wine, sparkling wine, and spirits all over the world. We are in France for champagne, for sure. As you mentioned, we have a specific terroir, so for champagne, for cognac, for rosé de Provence. But we have still a very interesting terroir in Brazil, in Argentina, and in California. Maybe just few words about our commitment. You mentioned ESG, and we are exactly at the same commitment within Moët & and we have a program called Living Soil, Living Together with 4 key pillars. The first one is regarding regenerating soils, and we will come into details just after that. The second one is mitigating our climate impact all along the value chain. The third one is about engaging society, and we have a specific responsibility when we are producing and selling alcohol is to promote, of course, the responsible drinking, but this is another topic for another day. And last but not least, of course, very, very important, empower our people, our team, very important to give more sense to our collaborators. So just to give you an overview about what we call jump on sustainable viticulture to regenerative viticulture, because we have been working for many years to reduce our environmental impact all over the world, meaning we achieve to have environmental certification. And what we are looking for is really to certify all our terroirs with the most demanding and local environmental certification. So it means, for example, Napa Green for California, and a specific one, I don't remember the name, for Argentina, specific one for Brazil. So we have been working on that, and for 3, 4, 5 years, we want to accelerate and to go a little bit further, and this is the reason why we change our practices to go towards regenerative practices. Meaning we implement cover cropping everywhere. We are trying some agroforestry practices, meaning planting some trees and hedges, and we try eco-grazing as well in our different terroirs. And I will explain a little bit later. yes, we target the rock certification as well in Argentina. Very important as well, what we really want to do is to be sure that nature is coming back in our vineyards. So it means we push and we foster biodiversity everywhere. Very important. And what is very important as well is to measure biodiversity, even if it's not so easy to find the right KPI to measure biodiversity. We try to assess biodiversity in our terroirs, around our terroirs, and a little bit further, because we support some forest regeneration all over the world. And this is really forestry, you know, because we have different species and we measure these different species of trees, again, all over the world. So it's very important to do that. And of course, because you mentioned, of course, the farmers, and very important, when we regenerate forest, we always measure the positive impact for communities, for local communities. Very important to involve everybody within this project. So, if we focus with these 3 terroirs, so just some picture to let you dream about this landscape. So in Argentina, we are in Mendoza, and we have 2 brands. We have Chandon Argentina, so this is a sparkling wine, and we have Terrazas de los Andes, and this is a still wine, very good one. So we have no samples to test it right now, so you can imagine how it is good. And what is very interesting within this vineyard, we ban herbicide completely for almost 5 years. And we have decided to go within organic certification and go further with regenerative organic certification. So it's a new label, very interesting, and it allows us to, of course, test our practices. And as you can discover, between 2 vineyards, now you have not naked soil, but you have a lot of different species. Sometimes you have herbs, sometimes you have legumineuses. Sorry, I don't know in legumineuses. Voilà. A lot of different species, and this is very important. And if you remember what I mentioned before, this is a good way to be sure nature is coming back. And around this vineyard, we try to plant some trees, different trees, and of course, local species. Very important, of course, to adapt everything and not to have the same design for our different terroirs. So we have the global view to go towards regenerative practices, regenerative viticulture or agriculture, but to adapt these practices with local terroirs and with local issues. Here, for example, in Argentina, we are it was a desert before vineyards, so of course we have to manage precisely, if I may say, the water, because you have no water, very few water. So we have installed precision and drop irrigation to be sure that we use the right quantity of water. And it's already too much. So now with regenerative agriculture, we are convinced, and we have to measure it, but it will allow us to decrease and to continue to decrease the water consumption. In Brazil, you can see, of course, we have banned herbicide as well, and you can discover, and in Brazil we have not exactly the same issue because we have a lot of water in Brazil. So here it grows very well, so we have to find the way not to tillage, not to compact the soil when we cut the herb. So it's very interesting to find a new way to be sure we can continue to give some nutrients and organic matter to the soil. And we have a specific compost in Brazil made locally to, again, give some positive food, for soils. and very interesting in Brazil as well. Of course, we involve the community. We involve people all around this area to do exactly the same. And for example, we have developed a tool called the Living Soils Workshop. And of course, to our people, our vine growers, we train them with this tool, but we suggest other vineyards, even our competitors, to give our tool, to give our training, to be sure, again, to involve everybody, and particularly, of course, farmers around, because you have a lot of soil around our terroirs. So we think it's very interesting that we can implement these regenerative practices with our neighbors. And this is in California. And in California, so we have 2 vineyards. This is a Chandon one, but we have another one, Phelps, a new vineyard we just bought last year. And quite the same, we really push these regenerative practices, and within this vineyard we have eco-grazing, very good for soils as well, and a very nice way to be sure that nature, and particularly animal, is coming back to our vineyard. So here was some example and initiatives, and of course we want to go further, and we really want to be sure to well measure the outcomes of these different practices. And this is the reason why we need some tools, and the reason why we work with Adrienne and with Genesis. And beginning of next year, I hope to add on this different vineyard the scoring of the soil health calculated thanks to Genesis. And our aim is, of course, not to compare, because again, this is not the same soil, this is not the same quality, not the same terroir, but what we really would like to understand why maybe in one terroir we obtain very good score, and in other one how we can to share with best practices to increase the scoring. And the dream would be, of course, by 2030, thanks to these different regenerative practices, to obtain very good score, maybe the best score of your tool, but really to measure year after year, or maybe not year after year, but 3 years after 3 years, the improvement of the soil health. And just maybe to finish, because as you understand, it's very difficult and we don't know everything, and we continue to test a lot of things. For us, it was like very important to create an event, a dedicated event regarding the soil and how we can continue to regenerate soils all together. And we have created the World Living Soils Forum. So the target of this forum was really to connect all the stakeholders around soils, scientists, of course, because we absolutely need scientists, soil experts, but companies as well, of course competitors, because within this subject we can't continue the competition, we have to really to work together. So competitors in the wine and spirit industry, but as well food companies and startups, NGOs, students. So we were together in order to of course, share best practices, share methodologies, to be sure to go a little bit faster. And we will organize the next one next year in the south of France, in Arles. It will be the 9th and 10th of October. And we hope to continue, this journey in order to regenerate soils all over the world.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you. I think that this panel give us a quick overview about the relation that need to be around the farmers to help them understand what's going on in the field and how they can contribute to climate change mitigation. We had the scientists work directly with the farmers, but also being involved in the definition of MRV method that could help all the people understand, even the civil society. And civil society is also playing a role. Farmers with farmers, because most of the farmers get inspiration in what the other farmers are doing. If there are by chance some farmers in the neighborhood that are doing the right practices, that works. But they need also to be sometimes advised by some other company to accompany them in the right direction. We are also some startup company that measure and try to make the scientific measurement more understandable to all the people and readable for the consumer and the business. And the business will need to be involved in all of that, having responsibility with the supply chain. Well, Moet Chandon is a little bit, NC is a little bit special company because you own your land and you manage your land the way you want. But most of the company, they have to cope with the farmers and they have to explain to the farmers what they would like to do if they get the right products. Yeah, it's also
For us, because we have not our own vineyard, so we are working with farmers.
But by chance, you can have some experiment on your own land and see what you have to do. So farmers need to be accompanied in all of that, and we wish that also the consumer will have his role to play in order to choose the right products to finance all of that, because the money is one of the things. So before closing, I would like to ask the attendants if you have a question to any of the panelists. You have them here accessible. So yes, please.
Maybe you can hear.
No, but there are some people online.
Okay. Well, first off, it would be easier to ask this question if we had some moe to...
Yes, but no, sorry.
Can't happen.
We are in Dubai.
I was kind of interested, Adrienne, if I could ask you, there was, you skipped over the bit about how you measure. Yeah, like that piece, you didn't seem to hit on that piece.
It's because that's a technical part. So we study the homogeneity of the parcel, of the plots. To study this homogeneity, we look at pedological data. So how is so it's geological, it's topography, and its practices, and practices. So we look, because we cannot sample in the same plots if you don't have in the same plots the same practices everywhere. It sometimes it can arrive. We can mix some sample together if you don't have the same practices in a field. It's okay for you? Yeah. So we look at the topography, the geology, and we look at the homogeneity of the parcel regarding this characteristic. After we sample, we made it's 5 sampling points for plots under 10 hectares. And if the plot is larger than that, we are making more and more sample. It's, you know, we have used the GRC. The GRC is the Joint Research Center of the European Union. We have used their protocol, so it's quite a common protocol. And inside the soil, so after we have to prepare the sample, sorry, we have to prepare it. A part is going to laboratory for carbon and all the pedological analysis, to characterize the soil. It's really important, texture and everything. And a part is going to DNA laboratory, and that's the hard part of the job, because there's not a lot of laboratory who can do this kind of measure, because we are working on, as I said, on a functional gene. So we need laboratory who can make, it's a type of analyze who are shotgun analyze. And so we work with only one laboratory in the United States who can do that. And I think in a few months we can have another one in France, but it's quite hard. So, and it's good to know also that a soil sample is not something that can travel everywhere. It's something who is considered as dangerous. It's a dangerous matter, yeah. It's a dangerous matter. So it's difficult to send also. So we have to find the best laboratory. You can have soil everywhere in the world. And we work always with the same laboratory, because there's a part of uncertainty in the measure. So we try, we will have always uncertainty, but we try to have the most reliable measure, so we don't want to have too many laboratories.
She has to keep some secret.
I put quality control on the laboratory and how they work, and we put standards, and we have standardized protocol also, but we are not the laboratory.
I don't know if we have time for another quick one, but maybe it's just a yes or no. But you had some sustainable practices there in some of your slides. They were quite interesting. But have you, to do them, is that a definitive success story, or are you still just testing?
Sustainable, you mean we have reduced, for example, a lot of inputs. We have changed a little bit. This is a nice story for the moment. Now we are testing a little bit more, and we are testing these regenerative practices. And it's too early, honestly, to have the real outcomes and the real benefits. But in fact, we have no time to wait, and so we want really to continue to implement. We hope it will work, definitely, and honestly, we have no choice. So right now, it's a little bit early to have exactly the right measure and the right outcomes.
Don't wait to have the definite answer to act. If not, you will never act. That's what we learn from science.
The pictures were great to see some of those ideas. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Maybe one point, which is very important. Yes, no, very important, that people on the field are so happy, you know.
And proud.
Yes, proud. So I think this is the nice story. Maybe it will be that for the moment. They are happy to change, to see nature is coming back, and to change these practices in the right way, because they have really the impression, and that's true, to play their part for the planet. So that's a very positive point.
Very important to have proud farmers, because we have so depressed farmers most of the time, and it's good to have happy. Can I conclude?
No, I want just to add just a short story. You know, when we began as a company, someone tell us that, but you are totally crazy. Farmers never want that you go in their field. You will have tomatoes in your face. It was like that. And when we have met farmers, it was not like that. They said, "Oh, you are looking at soil health? Ah, for the first time, something is regarding something really important." So farmers, they know that it's really important. They are really proud of their field. So it's not the problem.
Thank you very much. So we can applaud all our panel, all those beautiful ladies, and very... Thank you. So I hope you enjoy this side event. And we had one last year. Hopefully we have another one next year. Thank you very much to IRCA for the welcome and for the technical assistance. It was just perfect. I would dream to have that all year. Thank you very much.